Hello and welcome back to another Data News of the Week. You know what this is. It's the video where we go through all the different stories of the week that involve data that we couldn't squeeze into any other videos. And the starting story for this week is going to be interesting. Let's face it, I'm in my late 30s. I work in IT. Of course, I'm into Star Wars. So when I heard that Seagate were going to work on a Mandalorian series of game storage media, I'll be honest, I was listening. So I don't know if you guys are aware, they are releasing a new generation of kind of aesthetically pleasing, let's put it like that, gamer series, internal and external media. This includes their Fire CUDA. And it is heavily stylized thanks to an agreement between them and Lucasfilm in Mandalorian armor. The Beskar ingot kind of design there with the logos all over it there. It's going to factor into an external hard drive, external SSD, and of course, and a Fire CUDA 530 drive there as well with a heatsink. This is what that is, a specifically PS5 and indeed PC Gamer, of course, compatible heatsink that utilizes that incredible branding there on the top. Now again, the external drive is a little different there. It's the same sort of logo there and the same kind of metal external design there with the blue LED, but it's that heatsink there on the Fire CUDA that we care about the most. Knowing that it's PS5 compatible, of course, is a big part of this. And again, it's no huge confirmation on prices right now. I do know they're hoping to release this by the end of the year, the end of 2021. But again, for those that have been following the Seagate Fire CUDA, I know availability's not been great when it's originally launched. I think it's better now, particularly in the run-up to the likes of Black Friday next month. But again, really interesting to see a very unique take here in terms of design, and particularly aiming at you gamers out there who are, of course, if you're a gamer, there's a very good chance you're a Star Wars fan. So, you know, Seagate, yum yum, cha-ching. Next up, we've got full confirmation on a new Qnap that we talked about a little while ago there. This is their technically 3-bay/6-bay device. They're doing a live stream on it. I think if it's not already gone live, it will go live any second. We just got a notification about it. And this is the TS-364. Now, for those that aren't aware, Qnap have had a range of 3-bay devices in the past. We have talked about those other ones, but this one is genuinely quite impressive. And I know the other ones have sometimes kind of hit the ground with a very lukewarm reception because it's quite an odd place there in between a 2-bay and then you've got 4 bays and you've got 6 bays and stuff. To go down this 3-bay route down the middle is a bit questionable, but I think they've really got the mix right here in the 64 series. Arriving with 3 SATA hard drive bays that support up to 18 TB and indeed 20 TB drives on the horizon. There are also 3 NVMe bays inside there. That's right, M2 NVMe SSD bays inside that can be utilized for caching. They can be used as a storage tier within Qtier, and they can also be used as their own independent storage pool and volumes. The system also arrives with 2.5 GBE network on the rear. It's also got an HDMI out, although it is 1.4B HDMI, not HDMI 2.0. And there's also USB 3.2 Gen 2 ports on there, 10 gigabit USB connections there, which is great to see. This has all been made possible by that new generation of Celeron devices out there, taking advantage of the N5105 or N5095 Celeron processor. Intel has really refreshed up that CPU series, so things are going to be a bit bumpy on the Celeron range for the next 12 months or so until things get ironed out post-COVID. But it also arrives alongside that quad-core 2.0 to 2.9 gigahertz processor there with embedded graphics. It also has 4 gig of DDR4 memory that can be upgraded to an impressive 16 gigabytes of memory. And even though this CPU isn't really going to be ZFS supported, that's still a huge amount of potential hardware inside there. It is worth remembering that due to the PCIe lanes of that CPU and chipset just being pushed to their very limits, the M2 NVMe slots on here, they're not 3x4. They are PCIe Gen 3x2. That is 2,000 megabytes per second throughput available on all 3 of those lanes. So do bear that in mind regarding if you do go for this device. It's still nonetheless, this is 6 bays of great storage potential, and although the chassis has in the past met with mixed reception, this is still a great little hardware now. So if they get that price point just right, this could be a real silent hit Next up, we're going to bring it back to the old school and talk a little bit about optical disc media. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, there has been consistent, you wouldn't think it with SSDs and hard drives, but there's always been consistent work on optical media and still continuing to optimize it. When it comes down to it, optical media still is great for cold storage and archiving, and a kind of storage that you need to pop to one side that is very much read only. You don't really want to edit it, and it's more archival and long term. And 5D is the current gen of writing technique to squeeze in as much data onto optical media as possible. And with lots of research and development happening at the University of Southampton, there's been another big step forward on this with a potential 500 terabyte optical media. That's 10,000 times more than a Blu-ray, which is mental. Now, this is 5D long-term storage in terms of writing technique. The big barriers of 5D optical media have always been twofold. One, getting that storage stable, not just having it, but having it stable for both writing to and retrieval in the long term. Otherwise, it's absolutely pointless as archival storage. But the other one was performance, because a lot of the time it's the delivery. It's one thing to have a disk that can hold 500 terabytes of data, but it's not going to be very useful if you're only writing like a meg an hour. It's pointless. Now, they have said that at this 500 terabyte level, they are able to achieve 500 terabytes written to this disk over the course of 60 days, which on the face of it seems way too long, because they've obviously presented it as days to be realistic to get to that max capacity threshold. But that actually breaks down to about 4 to 5 gigabytes a minute, which, although it isn't exactly breathtaking, it's not terrible either if you're thinking archival long-term storage. And that to me is actually quite an acceptable starting level for this kind of storage media, particularly when you go back to CDs when they were like times 1, times 2, times 4 speed and whatever. Given if we can find the right performance versus capacity level and the price point, of course, I think that is a good starting block to start looking realistically and not skeptically at this idea of optical media at 500 terabyte storage, which is crazy. And finally, a story that's a lot more UK based than anything else, but I know it was extended beyond that in a number of cases. You guys may have heard the Tesco grocery website went down. I wasn't personally affected by this, but there was this sudden splurge of this on all the social media, and a lot of people suddenly had to learn what a DDoS attack was and stuff like that, which is weird in this current age when I think, denial of service attacks should be a lot more known than indeed they are. For those who aren't aware, the Tesco grocery app and their main servers gets around, they say on average, 1.3 million orders a week based on an annual average. And they suffered a cyber attack earlier this week of a bombardment. The intention wasn't fully confirmed whether it was to kind of steal information or just to bring the system down for giggles, who knows. But this isn't the first time we've seen this. Back in 2014, an attack not dissimilar to this resulted in over 2,000 user accounts being stolen and published online. That was usernames, passwords, addresses, the works. Now, this brought the servers down, so people that had existing orders or want to place new orders, no luck. But they were able to bring it back online after a little while. But there's still a very small amount of information on this, given if you're talking about 1.3 million orders a week, that is a lot of data, and hopefully this was just a knockdown attempt and there wasn't actually data obtained while the system was kind of on the floor with stars around its head. But this has been Data News of the Week. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, click like and subscribe to be more notified about these every week, and look out for a few decent little projects coming next week involving NAS, involving SSD, and a lot of Wi-Fi 6. I'll see you next week.